Week 2 is underway in the NFL. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the B&E Podcast. We've got a full slate of games on Sunday and Monday. Ed, what's going on, man?
It's another day, another weekend of football ready to get it started. It's also a bunch of fights on this week too that I'm gonna talk about a little later. But yeah, let's
Gotcha.
get into it. Deshaun Watson accuser will meet with the NFL and provide a pertinent video, says their attorney. Lions Hall of Fame linebacker Joe Schmidt passed away at 92 years old. Chiefs wide receiver Hollywood Brown will have surgery for his shoulder injury, and he's going to be placed on IR. Timeline for his return is in months, not weeks, according to Andy Reid. Niners running back Christian McCaffrey has been ruled out with a calf/Achilles injury, and he's been placed on IR as well. Ravens rookie cornerback Nate Wiggins will miss this upcoming Week 2 matchup after a car accident he suffered during the week. Coach Harbaugh says he's all right and healthy, but he'll just miss this week. And Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce says he would tell Tua Tagovailoa to retire after his third concussion in 3 seasons. Speaking of that, let's get into this game that happened on Thursday. The Bills beat the Dolphins 31 to 10, I believe. I think I have 20 on here. But yeah, excuse me about that. 31-10. Like you just mentioned, or I just mentioned in the opening drive, Tua went out with a concussion in the third quarter. To start the game is just not really good for him. He threw 2 picks in that first quarter. The linebackers for the Bills, they also suffered an injury too, though. Terrell Bernard, I believe his name is, he went out with a shoulder injury, and that could be a major loss for them. I think it was a pectoral injury, if I'm not mistaken, that he went out with. So got to look out for that news because they already down Matt Milano. Going into the second quarter, the game was tied 7-7, even with those 2 picks that Tua threw. And then it kind of went over for the Bills. They got the running game established. Josh Allen made some nice plays. I remember there was a play on 3rd and long. I thought they were going to get him off the field, but he scrambled out. I think it was Ray Davis. He was Ray Davis or James Cook. Both of them kind of did pretty good, but he connected with him on a scrambling toss and got him set up right on the goal line. And the next play, they scored. And at that point, I think they blew it up to like 24-7. And then you get into that third quarter. Tua throws another pick. This one was a pick six, if I'm not mistaken. And they were running down the field again or driving down the field again. And Tua 4th and 4, scrambled, lowered his head, tried to get those extra yardage and ran into DeMar Hamlin and went out again. And I kind of agree with everybody, all the pundits that were saying maybe you should think about retirement because at this point it's kind of looking like in combat sports they call it like punch drunk or chinny, but it seems like every time he takes a hit now to the head, he's definitely more susceptible to getting knocked out, and you don't want to see him in that as they call it fencing position, where his hands and fingers kind of make involuntary movements and stuff like that. So definitely a somber mood. Another thing I wanted to point out, just Thursday night games, I know from the fans' perspective is more football for us to watch and more money for the NFL law, but these Thursday night games are just not good, man. There's usually a lot of injuries. Most of the times the games aren't even good. It's usually a blowout. It's very rarely that I've seen a game on Thursday night recently been any good. It's just I think they need to do something about these Thursday night games and cut them off, man, because it's getting ridiculous. What do you think about the game, though, Brandon?
For Tua, obviously, 3 concussions in 3 seasons. And it honestly feels like more than that because, like you said, it just seems like whenever he gets hit in that upper body area, it is a concussion. Well wishes to him. Hopefully, he makes the right decision after he sits down with family and friends. What's best for them. The good thing is that he got his coin, so um, financially he should be set either way. But I know it seems like he has that competitive nature in him to where he probably will want to come back and play. Um, but again, hopefully he makes the best decision after speaking with his family and everything. I agree with that Thursday night perspective, man. I haven't been a fan of them, since they bought it in. It's just too short of a turnaround. Like you said, it's a lot of injuries. The games aren't typically good. Um, you mentioned it's usually a blowout, so it's not usually worth watching. Honestly, the Friday games the Friday game from last week, Can't say the Black Friday game from last year. That was a blowout. The Jets and I can't remember who played, but I think if they wanted to do a game in the week, Fridays and obviously Saturday would be good. I know they don't want to really mess with the NCAA football, but and college football, but I wouldn't be opposed to Friday nights. Even one more day in between, it's not as quick of a turnaround. You know, the road team literally has to finish their game from the week before and start also thinking about traveling as well. At least the home team, they have a little bit of an advantage, but still, yeah, it's too short. We've seen way too many injuries. Um, Hopefully, that's something that's more of a discussion this offseason as to what they're going to do to future Thursday night football. But yeah, I picked Miami. I should have known better. Buffalo has had their number as of late. I think they swept them in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. We've been calling on Buffalo and their fans and the media to run the ball, and we finally seen it consistent from the running backs. It wasn't a Josh Allen show as far as the ground games go. The ground game went. James Cook, Ray Davis, like you mentioned, 2 touchdowns for James Cook. On the ground, he had another one in the air. We knew they had some issues at wide receiver, so I think that's why Josh Allen kind of had himself a quiet game against this Miami defense. But yeah, shout out to Damar Hamlin for leading his team in the tackles. It was good to see him start in week 1, and he's still on the field in week 2 as far as um, his production standpoint goes. But Miami, they need to rush the passer better. That's one glaring point I saw from this game. Jalen Phillips played 51% of the snaps. He didn't even appear on the stat sheet. I wasn't even sure he was out there, honestly, until after I looked. Chop Robinson only had 2 tackles. The rookie out of Penn State, I believe he is. And I know Bradley Chubb, I believe he's on the pup list to start the season. But they definitely need some help with pass rush down there in Miami because it definitely got exposed in this one here. Miami was able to do their thing. Excuse me, Buffalo was able to do their thing. Honestly, this entire game, um, definitely running the ball. So something we're not used to. So yeah, shout out to the Bills. Best of luck to Tua, and hopefully he makes the right decision. Hopefully he doesn't go through any type of injury like this again if he does decide to come back.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Giants at the Commanders. Let's get into it. You know, Washington is a favorite. They're at home, so they're a 1.5 point favorite. Take that as you may. But Daniel Jones, when he plays against the Commanders, he turns into Eli Manning on his 2 Super Bowl runs. He turns into an All-Pro, Hall of Fame type guy. He's 5-1-1 against the Commanders. I think the last time he played against them was in 2022. So, take that as a grain of salt. But I'm concerned. I don't think this is going to be an easy game at any point for the Commanders. I think there's going to be a lot of Giants fans in the stadiums, even though there is some renewed hope with these Commanders. It's just still, we're kind of like the LA Rams where it's like a neutral field whenever teams come to play. So I'm still leaning towards the Commanders though, even though I say those stats about Daniel Jones. Giants started 0-2 recently. I think last 5 or 7 years, I want to say they've been 0-2. They're also having some injuries. Their wide receivers are banged up. I believe Malik Neighbors is questionable with a knee injury. The other wide receiver, Wandale Robinson, I think he's dealing with some injuries too. So it might be good for our secondary if their receivers are banged up. Hopefully Daniel Jones won't throw a party at us. And then I have some, hope and faith in Jaden Daniels. I think if the play does break down, he has that electric speed where he can get out the pocket and make things happen like he did last week, where he had like 86 yards rushing. I don't want to see him, 16 times or over 10, 15 times rushing the ball. I would prefer him to use Terry McLaurin, check it down to Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler a little bit more than rushing. But if you need to run, go ahead and run. But I am concerned about Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think he gets like half his damn sack total playing against the Commanders. So please don't let him game wreck us. Dan Quinn, I think he has the game plan to beat Daniel Jones. He did it with the Cowboys. I know the personnel was a little different. You had Micah Parsons and crew out there, but if anybody knows how to beat Dan Jones or make it hard out there for him, it's Dan Quinn. So hopefully that defense, the secondary in particular, can just bend, don't break. Don't let Malik Neighbors have his coming out party against us. Please, Lord. And we get the job done. I think it's going to be a close game. I think there's going to be some growing pains. Hopefully, Bobby Wagner can make some plays. Hopefully, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, those guys can make some plays. Just please, Commanders, can we get a win against the Giants once in this freaking decade? Can we? What about you, man? How you think about this game?
Be be 100% confident that the Commanders will beat the Giants, but here we are. New York, they struggled in every facet of the game last week. 240 total yards, 0 for 3 in the red zone. They were 3.5 yards per play, 9 penalties, 5 sacks. Something about early in the season with them that they just got issues. Um, and what made it crazy when I looked at the time of possession, they had the ball nearly 5 more minutes than the Vikings, and they still got blown the hell out. With that being said, I feel like there might be an opportunity in the end zone at least once against y'all's team. Y'all's secondaries having some issues. Linebackers still seem to have some
Whole
problems early
damn
on as
defense.
well. I'm sorry.
Whole damn defense.
Yeah,
That's me.
but
All
yeah,
of them.
we all saw how Big Bake took advantage of a weak commander secondary last week. I think Daniel Jones, he'll need to put things in his own hands and make some plays with his legs first, and then his arm. Please don't use your arm first, Daniel Jones. We know that you're turnover prone, even honestly with fumbles. But yeah, we'll get to that later on. But yeah, defensively, if the Giants offense don't put them in bad situations, I think that they can hold their own against the Washington offense. They did kind of hold Justin Jefferson in check last week, one of the top wide receivers in the league. I was surprised he didn't finish over 100 yards receiving in double-digit receptions, but he did. They held him in check, honestly. Washington, keep your foot on the driver's seat, honestly. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, the new defensive coordinator, they'll simply just dial up the blitz against the Giants offensive line. They gave up 5 sacks a week ago. Clearly, there's some issues there. Attack it and keep attacking it if they all want to win this game. But I think Jaden Daniels, though, he'll finish with over 100 yards on the ground. I think he's going to have a really good game coming off a really probably the best rookie quarterback game in week one last week. But one thing I will be watching though for sure is the Commanders kicking situation. Cade York was let go. I don't even know who the kicker is. You might be able to update me on
Austin
that.
Siebert, believe his name is.
Is he a rookie?
No, he's a
Okay, so he's
veteran.
been around. Okay, so
Mhm.
we'll see how that goes. But I do honestly think y'all will have a little bit more of a home crowd. I think that with the renewed energy of the rookie quarterback, you got a little bit of change at the top as far as the head coach goes. You got a young, fiery offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator came over from Dallas as well. I think the fans will show up in this one, but obviously that remains to be seen. Like you said, it does sometimes feel like it's the Rams at SoFi where it's kind of a neutral site, and the Giants aren't that far either. Straight down 95, pretty much their fans can get there. So best of luck. I got the Commanders. If I had to choose right now in this one, I'm not confident with the Giants at all until they prove me otherwise.
Yeah, no, I think the fans will show up too. I'm just more concerned that the Commanders will start to stink up the joint, and then the Giants fans will you'll hear them a little bit more than the Commanders fans. That's kind of usually what happens when it's neutral, unless it's like the Cowboys or the Eagles. Their fans always show up and whoop ass. Even in the crowd, they whooping ass.
Yeah. All right, let's turn our attention to Bucs and Lions battle of 1-0 teams undefeated. This will be the Lions' second straight playoff rematch. The Bucs beat them in the divisional round in 2023. I think this will be another good one there at Ford Field for the second straight week. You got two veteran quarterbacks going at it against a pair of young defenses. I'm going to give the advantage to the home team with the Lions. I feel like the difference will be the running backs, Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. They really had a coming out party last week. I'll also be watching how the Lions and their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, look to get Sam Laporta and St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown involved. They kind of had a quiet game in week one, but both of them, J-Mo really did his thing in a surprising fashion. But typically when I watch the Lions, I feel like their secondary is a liability, but they showed improvement last week. I don't think Bake will have things as easy as he did against the Commanders. But his wide receivers are certainly capable of getting some separation against these line defensive backs and making some plays. I got again the Lions going to 2-0 at home, and I think the Bucs will suffer their first loss of the season. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward the Lions too. I do think, like you mentioned, that running game, they got a great 1-2 punch with Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, and kind of do the same thing they did against the Rams, or to just tire them out, wear them out at the end of the game. I think that defensive or Detroit O line will kind of overwhelm the defensive line of the Buccaneers, even though they got a freight train of Vita Vea and those guys in front. I think eventually they'll be on the field too much and just get tired and overran. My only concern, I guess, with the Lions is their secondary going up against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They do have the rookie cornerback Terry Arnold, who kind of held his own against the Rams, or against the Rams last week. But this is Mike Evans and crew. Cooper Kupp did have a good game, and there was some holding penalties called against Terry Arnold. I don't know if he'll get picked on, but I do. That's my only concern going into the game. I think they'll be able to contain Baker Mayfield in the running game of the Buccaneers. I know Rashad White and rookie Bucky Irving had pretty good games against the Commanders, but Aiden Hutchinson, their linebackers are pretty good for the Lions too, running all over the field. The second-year player from Michigan, forget his name, coming out as a middle linebacker. But I do think the Lions will win this one. Jared Goff, just don't turn the ball over. I believe the Lions played the Bucs twice last year too, or if not one time. They played them in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And Amon-Ra St. Brown had big games back then. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised if he had a quiet game, as you mentioned last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of went off as well. Then Jameson Williams, he had his breakout game as well. So I'm gonna want to see how the Buccaneers defense does against the receivers and the tight end, like you mentioned, Sam Laporta. So give me the Lions. They're a 7.5 point favorite right now. I think the Buccaneers will keep it a little closer than that. But I do like the Lions in this one. Do like them in this one.
We're everyone heading for Dallas. We've got Saints and Cowboys. Apparently, the Cowboys they've won 16 straight home games during the regular season. Will they make it 17 in a row? Ed,
I don't know what really to make of that Cowboys game against the Browns last week. I mean, they got out on them early. I don't know if that was more of Deshaun Watson just not playing good. He's rusty, and he's not the same anymore. I don't know if he'll ever get back to his Houston heyday. I think he was just rusty, and the Cowboys got out on him. But there were some moments in that game where the Browns defense was able to get the Cowboys off the field, and that Cowboys offense didn't look the greatest out there. I know the Browns defense coming into the game was rated really highly, so I don't know if to make it that, but I know the Cowboys are favored by 6 points, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints went out there and started like Stephen A says, there are accident waiting to happen. What can go wrong will go wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints do that, but I'll go with the Cowboys. I think Dak got his money. CD got his money. Another week for him. I don't think he played too much in the preseason because he was holding out for his contract and stuff. I know that last week they got it done. So I mean training camp, not preseason, but I think he'll be a little bit more in shape and have some more bursts in the step. But that running game still concerns me for the Cowboys. I know they scored in the goal line with Zeke, but besides getting to the inside the 20, how's that running game going to look? And then their tight end, Jake Ferguson, he went out late in the game last week with a knee injury. I doubt he's going to play. I think he has like a sprained MCL or something. So that gives me pause for concern too. And then the Saints put it on the Panthers. Now, it was the Panthers, so, take that with a grain of salt as well. Chris Olave, he didn't really do too much. I think he'll have more to do in this game. And then there's always Alvin Kamara too. So will Michael Parsons and crew be able to wreck Derek Carr, or will Derek Carr, manage the game well, don't turn the ball over, and make this looks like the Cowboys are in trouble. But I'll take the Cowboys. What about you?
Possibly end up being a game of the week. Two teams that dominated their opponents last week. Um, they'll do it out in jury world down there. As you mentioned, it was the Panthers, it was the Browns against a Deshaun Watson led team, a Bryce Young led team that's we're kind of got a bunch of questions with. But looking back at a year ago, the Cowboys they beat every home opponent by double digits. They kind of really dominated teams at home, except for the Lions game on their final home game of the season, and the Packers in the playoffs. Of course, they beat them there as well. I expect another dominant performance on both sides of the field for Dallas tomorrow on Sunday, and it'll also be Zeke's first home game since he's got his ass planted on the final play against the 49ers back in the playoffs a couple years ago. So I'll definitely be looking forward to that, seeing his first carry, kind of get that memory out of his head. His first time hitting the field since that game there at AT&T Stadium. My matchup to watch though, CD Lamb versus Marshawn Lattimore. I'm looking at the injury report now. I see Marshawn is questionable. Hopefully he plays. It'll be, I think, a great matchup. CD Lamb didn't have his best game a week ago against the Browns secondary, so I think they'll try to get him involved a little bit more. I think he'll finish over 100 yards. I don't see that being any type of problem. Defensively for the Saints, will this pass rush have any success against the Dallas offensive line? Alontae Taylor, he caused a nightmare of a headache for the Carolina offensive line a week ago, but it was Carolina. Chase Young is familiar with the Dallas um, offensive line as well from his time in DC. So we'll see how he performs against his former rival. And Derek Carr, never know what to expect from him. But Deron Bland, he is out for several weeks, so we'll see how he can attack that secondary as well. And as you mentioned, Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, see if they can get them two going. I'm going to go with the home team. I think they're very good at home, and I think they will continue to be good at home. Again, I just don't trust Derek Carr week in and week out. We saw he kind of surprised me how well he performed last week, but can he consistently do it? I know he has the pieces around him, but can he consistently do it? I do like the Saints defense as well, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to the Sunday night game. We got the Bears at the Texans. Brandon, how you feeling about this one?
Texans, period. Um, Not only is this going to be a tough place for Caleb Williams to play in his Bears team, but they're also a little bit banged up. Both of their top receivers were listed as questionable last time I checked. I think Chicago will struggle in this one, especially with penalties, false start in particular. I think that that stadium down there in Houston is going to be rocking. That fans are going to get involved in a 12-man type capacity. On the other side of the field, Houston, that they got a running back to go along with those wide receivers at the skill position. Um, I think they'll face a little bit of tougher defensive front with this Bears front seven coming to town, but I like this Houston offensive line to continue to improve, and I think they'll start with a run first approach on Sunday Night Football there in H Town. My matchup to watch: Joe Mixon versus this Chicago front seven. I just mentioned the front seven for Chicago. Finished with 30 carries, 159 yards last week. Chicago struggled against the run as well last week, especially trying to contain Will Levis. He made some plays with his legs from the quarterback position. Now you actually got a guy that's known for a little bit more running than Will Levis. They got to face. So will they tighten things up? Will this Chicago defense make things a little bit interesting down there? But yeah, I'm going to go with the home team in this one. I'm going to give them about a 13-point win on Sunday Night Football. And I probably, if I catch any of it, I will mute Chris Collinsworth again. I have no intention of listening to him, as peaceful as it was in the Ravens game when I did watch, not having to hear his voice. So I'm going to be planning to mute him again. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I agree with you on definitely on muting Chris Collinsworth. I wish there was a way we could just listen to Mike Tirico. But
Exactly.
I also agree. I think the Texans got it done. I'm concerned, man. I was buying into all the hype of Caleb Williams, and he went out there against the Titans and threw for about 93 yards. Like you said, Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze, they're both questionable. I think Keenan Allen's dealing with like a knee injury, or Roma Dunze is. But who's going to step up? I know DJ Moore is still the top guy, but who's going to step up? Cole Kmet, he really didn't do much. He had one catch for 4 yards last game. And I think Gerald Everett actually played more than him. So I'm looking to see if he'll be the guy who steps up for the Bears. But overall, I do think the Texans are just a better team. CJ Stroud, I don't think it was a fluke last year with his success. I think that Colts game they played kind of showed like, yeah, he's the real deal and he's here to stay. And as you mentioned, Joe Mixon, workhorse running back, the type of numbers he put up, 30 carries for 159 yards. So now they got a good running game to go along with CJ Stroud. I like to see a little bit more of Stephon Diggs out there. Nico Collins. I know the Bears have an all-pro with a quarterback with Jalen Johnson, but he's going to have his hands full. Either with Nico, Stephon, or Tank Dell. Pick your poison. I think Dalton Schultz might be doubtful. I don't think he's playing. I can't remember exactly what his injury is. It might be a hamstring injury, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, I think overall, just the better team is the Texans. Well coached. Still have some questions about Matt Eberflus and how things are going to get done there. But I had to be a betting man. I think the Houston Texans will win, and I think they can cover that 6.5 point spread that they got as well.
Add this to our script. We're going to look at the remaining games on the schedule real quick for week 2. Colts and Packers, Jets and Titans. A lot of pressure on the Jets there. Looks like they're 3.5 point favorites there. 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff on CBS. 49ers at Vikings, Seahawks at Patriots, Chargers at Panthers, Browns at Jaguars, Raiders at Ravens will top out the early window of games. Looking at the late window, 4 o'clock Eastern on Fox, Rams and Cardinals, Steelers and Broncos, Bengals and Chiefs. We just mentioned a Sunday night game, and then also Falcons and Eagles. We'll finish it all off on Monday Night Football on ESPN, heading into the start of the work week. Which of these games will you be wanting to keep an eye on in between your Commanders game?
Definitely going to keep an eye on the Jets Titans game just to see how Aaron Rodgers look, if they can bounce back or not, and will Levis go down in history with that meme quality, falling on his knees, putting his hand on his head, like, oh Lord, what did I just do? Or can he bounce back from that? Going to be looking at y'all game, Vegas versus the Ravens. Check out the Chiefs Bengals game. I think the Bengals are going to go 0-2. I could be wrong, but I do think that's going to happen. And then, of course, the Monday night game. Try to watch that as well. Falcons and Eagles. Kirk Cousins looked old and definitely didn't look ready to play. Still dealing with that Achilles injuries. So I wonder how he's going to look out there. Hopefully he looks better because I need Bijan and Kyle Pitts to eat, since I thought I bought into the Kirk Cousins hype. I don't know why the hell I did that, just stats-wise. But, yeah, those are the games I'm looking into. What about you?
Yeah, I'll be wanting to watch this Steelers and Broncos game. Will Will Justin Fields lead them to another win there? Traveling to Mile High is never fun. This rivalry goes back for some years as well. Raiders and Ravens, we've got Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby coming to town against an offensive line who we can't decide who we want to play at right tackle right now. So please pray for us, and we will pray for you. Browns and Jaguars, I'll also be wanting to watch that. See Deshaun Watson, can he do anything on the road there? Jaguars, they don't want to start 0-2 either. And then Seahawks Patriots, I think that the connection, I know the coaches aren't there anymore, but Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick, this rivalry goes back a little bit, even back to the Super Bowl, back when they played each other. Both teams are 1-0. A surprising 1-0 for the Patriots. So how will they look in front of their home fans there in Foxborough? And yeah, Jets Titans as well. I think the pressure is on New York. They cannot fall to 0-2. I think that they'll have their way against the Titans, but a loss will definitely be very, very interesting there in the Big Apple to start next week if they fall to 0-2. All right. Turning our attention to our guaranteed picks. Who do you feel 100% confident with heading into week 2?
My guaranteed pick is whoever is playing against the Panthers, and this tomorrow that would be the LA Chargers, and I think they have a good shot of beating them. So my guaranteed pick is the LA Chargers against the Panthers. They're in a 5.5 point favorite. I think they can cover that as well. Justin Herbert, don't turn the ball over. Defense, don't let Bryce Young look like a first round or number one pick overall. And I think they should get the job done. What about you?
Um, Just surprised the hell out of me and every damn body. I think I'm looking forward to that one as well to see how he caps off that 100-yard performance there from week one against the Raiders. I'm gonna go with the Jets over the Titans. Again, I'm not too confident with the Titans team this year. They can be beaten at home, on the road, across the pond, um, on a neutral field. They could be beat anywhere, honestly, in my opinion. No disrespect to them. I don't think the hype with this team, that the ones that have rooted on the Titans over the years, I don't agree with their hype. And also, Commanders over the Giants. I know you might surprise you. Again, I'm not confident with the Giants this year. Um, we saw the issues in week one. We saw their inability to protect their quarterback. We saw that they couldn't stop Minnesota on defense. They contained Justin Jefferson and they still lost. So give me the Commanders over the Giants. I think all are the better team, at least heading into this game. We'll see when it's all said and done. But yeah, my first one, Jets over Titans. I'm locking the Jets if I had to right now.
Gotcha. All right. As I mentioned earlier, this is also a bunch of fights coming on this week. We kind of got MMA versus boxing. UFC 306 is going down tonight. We got Sean O'Malley versus Marab Devashili. Sorry if I butchered your name, sir. I believe Sean O'Malley's the favorite, but I always like upsets, so I would be kind of happy to see Devashili to get the job done. But Sean O'Malley's an electric guy. We also got Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko in the co-main event. And that should be a good fight as well. On the boxing side, we got Canelo Alvarez, arguably the face of boxing, going against Edgar Berlanga. I think Canelo should get the job done. I'm expecting him to knock him out. We also got Arasandi Lara versus Danny Garcia and Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumbee. It's a couple of Philly guys in the card. Danny Garcia, he's from Philly, and my guy Steve Fulton, cool boy Steph, he's from Philly too. And then if anybody remembers that crazy guy Rolando Romero, he got knocked out by Tank back in the day. He's fighting on the card as well. But it's definitely MMA versus boxing. I think this is like Mexican Independence Weekend or Mexican Independence Day, because there's both the UFC is doing like a Mexican thing. They're actually going to be fighting at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Hopefully I get to go there one day and check that place out, because I heard great things about that. But yeah, man, hopefully, like you said, I hope you're right with your guaranteed pick. I do hope the Commanders get it done, but you just never know with these dudes. But we'll see what happens. Everybody stay safe out there. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back the next time. Peace.